I have certain labels that are attached to me, and I'm used to them by now. The fact that most of my music is tonal is responsible for one of the labels, which is conservative or old-fashioned or whatever it is. This, of course, does not take into account the fact that I play a great deal of music that is not tonal and which I like very much. But this somehow doesn't seem to affect the general attitude toward me, which is that I am conservative and retrogressive, or whatever you want to call it. And that is largely because I believe in tonality. And this is not a conscious belief, it's not a conscious decision to preempt a belief. It is inbuilt, and it's something I simply believe in. It is something that is at the heart of what I do as a composer. And this is not to say that I have not written non-tonal music, because I have. And perhaps the most striking example of that is Kaddish, my third symphony, which contains a great deal of highly complex, carefully worked out, according to the Schoenbergian system, 12-tone music. It's obvious to me now that at that point, the tremendous agony of the dialogue with God, which occupies the main portion of Kaddish, had to be expressed in the expressionistic manner.
Got there a little too late. You have 6 there? That's why you got too late, yeah. He has only 5. You always have different ones. It has to be very nervous, but it's always arrive together, all right? Slight nervous breakdown.
One of the main points of the piece is that the agony expressed by the 12-tone music has to give way, this is part of the form of the piece, to tonality and diatonicism even, so that what triumphs in the end, the affirmation of faith, is tonal.
All right, 1 before Y, please. Now let's see if we can do this without a stop. If we can, then we're already somewhere.
I suppose in my music, if I had to be critical about it, to the extent that I have any perspective about it at all, because most artists only pretend to have perspective about their pieces, their works. In the case of my own music, I would have to say that it has its roots everywhere. In jazz, in Hebrew liturgical music, in Bach and Beethoven, and Schumann and Chopin and Mahler and the rest. In the musicians of my own country, like Copland and Harris and Schumann. It also has its roots in Schoenberg and in the various movements that have revolutionized music in our century and caused crisis to occur in our musical history.
En 1973, dans le cadre des Charles Eliot Norton Lectures, Bernstein donne à Harvard une série de 6 conférences retransmises à la télévision dans lesquelles il analyse la crise provoquée par l'abandon du système tonal. Il se fait le défenseur de la tonalité grâce notamment à une comparaison très originale entre musique et langage parlé. La musique de l'avenir, déclare-t-il, fera la synthèse de différents styles à l'intérieur du système tonal.
And I believe all this has been made possible by the rediscovery, the re-acceptance of tonality, that universal earth out of which such diversity can spring. And I believe that no matter how serial or stochastic or otherwise intellectualized music may be, it can always qualify as poetry as long as it is rooted in earth.
The artist in America is in a particularly eclectic position, much more than Bach, Beethoven, the others that I mentioned, because he signifies and stands for a highly eclectic and pluralistic country. After all, there is no such thing as an American. Americans, if you want to go down to roots, are Red Indians. And with the exception of them, everyone else is an immigrant. We are all immigrants or sons or grandsons or great-great-grandsons of immigrants. And these immigrants are of all kinds. Some were slaves when they came here, and we tend to forget that when we speak of Americans as types. Some were Poles, and some were Hungarians, and some were Chinese, and some were Jews, and some were Spanish, and many, of course, now are Latin Americans. But they're all Americans. And anybody who has his ear to the ground and who is sensitive to the country in which he lives reflects that country. And being such a hodgepodge and such a pluralistic kind of country, it would naturally cause a reflection to take place, which is in itself eclectic. What holds it all together with any given particular composer is his own personal voice, which is always there. It renders the word eclectic a beautiful word.
L'éclectisme de Bernstein est particulièrement évident dans Mass, une pièce de théâtre dansée et chantée qui fait l'ouverture du Kennedy Center de Washington en 1971. Mêlant liturgie religieuse, rock et comédie musicale, Mass est tour à tour encensé et critiqué.
I'm used to a great deal of critical hailstones. And by this time, at the ripe old age of whatever I am, it shouldn't bother me anymore, and I suppose it doesn't. On the other hand, it would be pleasant if people understood what it was I was trying to do. Now, when I say people, I'm making a very definite distinction between critics and people. because I write my music for people, and certainly not for critics. If I'm lucky, I will come out with an American language set to a kind of music that is condign to it, that fits it, and that doesn't sound strained, phony, laughably operatic, but sounds natural. And if I'm not lucky, I will have failed. But I'm willing to take that chance. That also takes a certain amount of courage, and I'm willing to meet the challenge.
O my Father, Lord of light, beloved Majesty, my image, myself, we are one after all, you and I. Together we suffer, together exist, and forever will recreate each other. Recreate each other, suffer and recreate each other.
I think what is happening now, and has been happening subterraneanly all through these years that I have stuck to my guns about tonality in the face of rude criticism and vile epithets and all the rest, is that most of the composers are coming back to tonality. Almost all of them. They're coming around full circle because they want to communicate too. I see a tremendous coming together of all these disparate artists who have been at war with one another and with the public for so many years in not an effort, but in a very natural and almost predictable movement toward reaching communicatively a large public. And I think we are about to see a beautiful historic period in all the arts.